Hey everyone out there, man. Welcome to the special edition of Over the Shoulder. It is the Kwanzaa edition where we are, we're engaging in how to build community. And just for this one, we're doing the second day of Kwanzaa. Second day of Kwanzaa is Kujichagulia. And that stands for self-determination. So today I brought on a guest who determines self out of every single thing that he does. So meaning that like he sets his path and he goes out for it. You know, he's from New Orleans, moved to Atlanta, moved back to New Orleans, came back to Atlanta. Nothing changed. Success keeps growing for him. So like how he blazes his path is kind of what we're gonna be talking about today. Without further ado, our guest is, I'll let you introduce yourself for the audience.
Oh man, thank you so much. My name is Riku, at Riku Reels on Instagram. Pleasure to meet you.
Okay, so.
Thank you for not saying my government immediately.
Yeah, I've tried to learn. You know, it just took me like a year for me to learn that.
2.
Maybe. Okay, so with that, when you hear the word Kujichagulia, which means self-determination, what comes to you?
When I hear self-determination, Kujichagulia. I think self-determination goes hand in hand with like confidence. When I hear self-determination, I think confidence. Okay. You don't need, a lot of people go looking for outside sources for validation. Self-determination is like validation without outside, you do it within. Because all that matters, who do you wake up with and who you go to sleep with? Even if somebody in the bed, they're not in there. You gotta wake up and remember, oh, they're next to me. Nah, you here. Self-determination.
So for me, what I always thought about with self-determination is identity. So who are you? So like the idea of Kwanzaa, again, is building a community. So when you're building a community, the first day is umoja, which is unity. So like before you have any type of community, you have to unify. Everyone kind of has to be on like the same accord, we're about to do something. So the second day with self-determination is the identity portion. So it's like, what's that something you're about to do? So what's the identity that you're gonna go forward and like proceed forward? So like, let's put it like this. So Mountaintop Studios is you know, the company that I started a few years ago. So when we think about Mountaintop Studios, what are we doing? That's how we determining self. So when people think about Mountaintop Studios, when people think about it, like they think film, they think photography, they think videography, that's what we determine. They don't think fast food because we haven't determined ourselves as a restaurant. We haven't determined ourselves as that. So it's like, but determining that message, what's the brand message? That's super important because, you know, if your brand message doesn't fit what you're actually doing, people are gonna get confused. So like, if you say, hey, I'm a confident man, and you do all these insecure things, people are gonna be like, what's happening? Who, like, again, it's apples and oranges and you trying to be both of them and I need you to pick a fruit. So.
Right, you told me it was a Ferrari, but it's driving like a Honda.
Yeah, and people gonna be mad when they think they're getting in a Ferrari and it's a Honda. That's how you lose people, that's how you lose community. So if everyone doesn't abide into, you know, how we're determining self, they're gonna leave and then they're gonna be like, oh, this wasn't something that we agreed to be a part of. So if you tell somebody, hey, I'm building a production company, going back to Mountaintop Studios, you tell somebody you're doing that, and then you're never producing anything, you're never doing anything related to that, people are gonna be like, okay, he said he was doing a whole bunch of stuff, and then they're just gonna leave and let go and just, that's gonna be it. That's the last time you're gonna hear from those people. So when I'm speaking about you and everything that you've done as a person, Riku, like I said, for me, wanting to bring you on here because from the moment I met you, you've been like, you stand out. You go to a place and people feel your presence. They feel your energy. You know, I can send you on a shoot and stuff like that. And again, it was like the Atlanta Dream games. That was like, I was like, dang, who am I dealing with right here? I sent you to 2 games. Then you were with Caitlin, but I sent you to 2 games. I wasn't with you. I come in like the 3rd game. You done met the security guards. You done met the DJs. You done met everyone, this and that. And it was like, your presence was felt. Like you were a great representation of, you know, Mountaintop Studios and everything that we're trying to do. So like, how did you establish that presence? Like, has it always been something natural? Is it something you had to work on?
I'm actually naturally an introvert. Being outside like that in those spaces and talking to people, the energy it requires, I had to work that like a muscle. I'd much rather be at home every time. Going to those specific places, when I go places, literally anywhere I go, I don't really think much about it. Like, I should talk to this person. I don't know celebrity faces. I'd be nice and confused. I don't know who you are. But I'm so natural with it, like when I see somebody and I'm interacting or I'm walking around, I'm moving, some small signal or through whatever sense that it may come through will be like, they seem pretty cool. So if I think you're pretty cool and I haven't talked to you, I would love to talk to you. Let me see if you're as cool as I think you are off the first thing, right? So we talking. I never have any forced conversations. It's never, I can curse, I'm a curse. There's never no bullshit. I'm not coming to you to talk about nothing. It's not fun. So when I come up there and talk about something interesting, if my assumption right, we both go enjoy the conversation. And that's with anybody. Security guards, they just always look fresh every time I walk by. You hear me? There's one lady, the head, and she be looking fresh to death. So I commented, I said, you know what? I'm just have to call you Superfly. Every time I see you, Superfly, because you got a new fit. I'm going to have to put you on this camera, getting your own segment. And the other two was there, and we all started talking. And just be random stuff like that. If somebody looking cool, if a dude got a nice fit on, or some Jordans that I like, or some shoes that I like, period. If I like your hat, yo, nice fucking hat. I like that hat. And I'll do it in passing. Sometimes people will stop and talk. You never know what you'll hear, you never know what you'll learn. I think people are too scared to just say hello. If you see you got a compliment, give it. Why you gotta be such a standoff dickhead? Don't make no sense.
And that's very fair. So
it's all natural. I don't think. It's just, if I don't want to talk, I'm not gonna talk. If I want to talk to you, engage, I'm gonna engage naturally. That's why. Me, you ain't really have like a period where we had to get mad comfortable. Not to me. I was comfortable off the dribble. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just me. Thought you was cool. We ain't gonna say how we met. Say that.
We say that for later.
It's not fit for Kwanzaa. All right.
So, okay, so you said you said two things. You said it was natural, but it was a muscle that you had to learn how to work.
The energy to be outside was like a muscle that I need to learn how to work. But while I'm outside, the things I do are just natural. But it's like, it's still draining. Interacting is still a little bit draining.
It's actually kind of funny because as I've gone on, like getting, older in this journey and stuff like that, most people believe I'm an extrovert. Most people believe that, like, hey, Enoch loves to be outside. He loves interacting with people and stuff like that. And it's cool. It gets the job done. With my line of work, I gotta do it. But I'm actually super introverted. Like, by the time I get home from all these shoots and everything like that, like, yeah, my energy is depleted. I just have a huge battery. Like, I can just, yeah, that's what it is. So for you to tell me, like, my perception of you would have been, Riku is a extrovert more, so I would have leaned towards that answer as opposed to being an introvert. But then you're saying the same thing. I'm like, we're reflecting of each other. Like, yeah. And I kind of found that more of the people who I hang around are majority introverts. And just go outside from time to time. They've chosen paths. I almost feel like most photographers, videographers might be introverts, or at least the good ones.
You're not wrong. I think a lot of creatives are introverts, but you have to be outside to really experience things.
Yeah, because that's the only way you can create. You can't create just from being inside. You got to go out and see and experience. Right. So, okay, so let's look at so that's you with self-determination, everything like that. So again, how I said Kwanzaa is about building a community. So for me, as you know, I'm super black. You done been in my house and everything. You see the paintings, the quotes, and all that kind of stuff. So for me, how I look at it, like when you think about the black community and you think about identity, specifically black community in America, because we're both, American. Mm-hmm. It says, I think we have a trouble sometimes, like really establishing our identity, what we're fighting for, what we're trying to do, like what's the movement that we're trying to how do we bring it forth to, how do we bring forth our message to the masses and stuff like that, so people to see us and be like, stop playing with us. Mm-hmm. And I think with our generation, like a big, huge movement has been like this, we're gonna break generational curses. Like I think everyone kind of has been like, we're about to break like the stuff that our parents went through, grandparents, great-great-grandparents, all that kind of, we're gonna break them. But when you hear the words curse and generational, like those are two heavy words. A curse doesn't mean like, I'm doing something slight to you. It's like, I've cursed your name, I've cursed your lineage, I've cursed your family. Yeah. And then generationally, it's like, this is not 10 years, this is 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. So these are curses that haven't been broken, but our generation has been like, we putting a stamp down, like we're breaking these generational curses. And so for me, like how my brain operates is like, okay, well, if we want to break these curses, let's establish community. That's the only way to kind of break it. We have to like break all the things that were broken into us by our parents, but who broken into them by their parents, that were broken into them by their parents, which at the end is reflective of the society that broke, you know, a lot of the things that are happening with our community. So when you think about self-determination, how do we determine like the Black community self? I know this is a heavy topic I just gave you.
I think the first step to determine the Black community self is to get the fuck off of your phone. How can you tune in to what's inside of you and all you focus on is what's in front of you created by somebody else? We're supposed to use it as a tool. It's not a tool anymore. We're a tool for it in most circumstances. You can't have so much unity and most of your influence comes from I don't know what dimensions of phones, I'm gonna guess. 2x3 inch screen. Doesn't make any sense. But that's not gonna happen. So a better way to establish self, or another option for establishing self, I think is just spend time with yourself. I don't think a lot of people are comfortable with themselves. I feel like two people can't even be together happily if they're not happy alone. You're supposed to come together and share your happiness with each other. I think if Black people would stop indulging in the tools that they give us to distract us from ourselves, we'd be a lot better off. What is it, dopamine? Dopamine make you forget all of your problems. You be living on your mama's couch. You ain't got nothing going on. You got 4 hours left in your day. Instead of taking those 4 hours to read a book, watch something that could possibly enrich you, learning a skill on YouTube, you go turn on porn, play video games, or smoke weed. All of these things will make you forget that you got the problem you got, which is I live in my mama's house right now.
Very fair, very fair.
I don't even think we can think about unity until we can process ourselves.
So typically what I tell people about like Kwanzaa is it can be applied in 3 different forms. And I tell them the first form is the most important, is self. So like, again, unity, you gotta be unified in yourself. Again, if you're saying one thing, but you're doing something else, you ain't unified in yourself. Like most people can say about me is that like, the shit I say is the shit I do. Like, whether you like what I do or what I not, I tell you what it is. I don't really just be like, I don't really BS too much because I don't got time for BS. I know I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I know what I want to be. So it's like, but if you're not that unified within self to where those match up, then you can't even really be a part of a community because you're going to tell the community one thing and then you're going to do something else and the community's going to get mad at you because people don't get mad when you tell them what's about to happen and it happens. People get mad when you tell them something's about to happen and it doesn't happen. We've been everyone's been in a relationship. The times, our significant other typically gets mad at us when we said one thing and another result came because we got to be able to set expectations. Business, doing a business. If you tell your client, hey, this is when it's going to happen and it doesn't happen right here, what are they? Mad, But then if like that communication, like of just being able to tell and say and just like being unity with that, once you have that established, like you can go out and be very powerful. So I tell people, like, if you can't be unified within self, ain't no need to even try to be unified with anybody else. So then the next step, if you can get unified within self, determine self, like self-determination, when I was telling you about, you said it was confidence and all that kind of stuff. Like when you have that, then you can actually go out and be a part of community and help determine what is the self of the community. Like I said, you've helped establish the identity of Mountaintop Studios. But that's because you are unified within self, you've determined who you are. So it's easy for you to come into Mountaintop Studios and really put your stamp in and be like, okay, we should be doing this. We can do that. We can make this into, this, that, and the other. So like with those things is like self, community, and then world. How do you establish yourself on a world? So that's obviously way more macro, way more bigger, way more on a global scale and stuff like that. So that's later down the picture. But it first comes those steps of community and self. If those things aren't unified, if those things aren't determined, if those things aren't the other 5 principles that come after self-determination, it's done. It's done. And I tell people all of that starts with self. So for me, like I've told you, like the 7 days of Kwanzaa, I started out, I unified myself, I determined myself, then I found my collective works and responsibility of like what I'm doing. I started cooperative economics. I started spending with my people, spending within my community. Within doing those things, I found my purpose. So then that's when I started picking up cameras, telling our stories in a very authentic way. When I started doing that, I found my creativity, how I can put my own spin on it, how I can tell my own type of stories that showcase us. And then after that, just having the faith that everything's gonna work out. And that's the 7 principles of Kwanzaa in itself, and how like each of those kind of go hand in hand to make the next principle like be able to work, flourish, and keep going.
I guess I gotta go back and add accountability in to the self portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
I can say all of that, but I still fall victim to my vices, even with my sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
Outwardly, I do have a strong sense of self. Inwardly, I got a strong sense of self. And myself needs to work more on accountability and discipline, which I've been actively working on.
And so that's actually, so with having Kujichagulia, self-determination, and having the third day is, like I said, it's collective works and responsibility. The responsibility portion is accountability, because, no one's gonna be perfect. Like, just because, again, we are gonna mess up. We're all gonna, everyone has vices that we're gonna give into from time to time. And it's not about giving into your vices. It's about like, how do you react to giving into your vice? How do you, like you said, again, going back to a relationship, you're gonna mess up in a friendship, whether it's a relationship, you're gonna mess up as a son, you're gonna mess up as a father, you're gonna mess up with this and that. But a lot of times where people hurt and inflict damage upon the other person is how they react to their mess ups. They try to cover it up, they try to lie, they try to put it on somebody else, they try to deflect, they try to project, they try to, make it feel like it's the other person's fault. They try to make it like someone else's lack instead of going in. It's hard to go in. I think that's the hardest thing to do, is to like look at yourself and look at your bullshit, because it's your bullshit. And like, that's the part that a lot of people don't want to do. That's why people stop growing, because they don't want to go within. So it's like, how I tell the Black community is that like, hey, yeah, it's everything, we've been dealt an injustice here, 100%, but no one else is going to help us out. We can't depend upon anyone else to be like, hey, we're going to help you with these problems. So the only way for us to solve these problems is for us to go within. For us to go within, we got to battle all the stuff that was unfair to us. We got to battle the bullshit. We got to battle all this stuff. We got to turn off our phones from time to time. We got to do stuff that feels uncomfortable. But the only way that you ever grow in life is by being uncomfortable. If you get to a place where you're just real comfortable, growth is pretty much done for you at that moment. You got to put yourself in a different situation, because it's one of the things, now you're comfortable in the room you're in. You're comfortable with all the people in the room with you. You're comfortable, like, because pretty much you say something, they're going to say yes to it. You got to hope
I hate that. I hate that so much. Tell me I'm wrong. Please, God, tell me I'm wrong. I speak because I want you to critique.
That's the hard part, because most people, like, they want it to be, the critique to be, it's flowers and roses. Again, we just premiered a movie last month and stuff like that. Yeah, you want everyone to say they loved it and all that kind of stuff, but what happens when they say they don't? What happens when they say they didn't like this and that? Like, I was dealing with this girl, she didn't want to give me her critique when she watched it and stuff like that, because she necessarily had a good critique on it. And I was like,
you definitely want to hear.
That's
what we want to hear.
Yeah, that's the one, like you said, I want to hear this and that. Like, everyone sung their praises and all that stuff. And like, that's great, it makes you feel good and stuff like that.
It's
but
good dopamine. Dopamine.
It's good, exactly. But like, in order for me to grow past my next project, I don't want this to be the best project I ever did. I want my next project to be better. Right. So I have to know, like, what things could I have done better? What ways could I have thought? Like, how did this person interpret something? Were they confused? This and that. Like, so, bad critique, like failure and critiques are how you learn. You don't learn from success. Success just feels good. It just makes you feel accomplished. It makes you feel fulfilled. It helps you keep moving forward in the path like this is right. So success is important, but failure is equally as important. Mistakes are equally as important. I feel like, they get such a negative connotation. It's like, no, tell me I could have did better. Tell me that, you expected this and I didn't live up to that expectation, because now I can learn from that. Like, I would say this year in my life, like, I've made a ton of mistakes, but the thing about making a ton of those mistakes is I've learned from them. Like, I didn't try to cover them up. I faced the mistakes that I've been making and been trying to move forward. You know, I'm not gonna say I made mistakes after the mistakes, yeah, of course, but it's just like facing that is the hard part, because you have to face that. But when you face your mistakes, it goes back to Kujichagulia, you determine yourself, because you don't know, like you said, you don't know who you are when everything's going great. When everything's great, everyone loves you, you're happy, like you said, your dopamine level just up and stuff like that. Like, you don't know who you are. Because of course you'll go out, you'll pay for someone's food. Of course you'll go out and, you know, laugh to, oh yeah, I'm gonna help you out, I'm gonna be nice to you. Yeah. Because everything's going great. You have no reason not to be those things. But if you're a nice person, you're nice even when everything's falling apart. You know, if you're a generous person, you're generous even when everything's falling apart. You know, like that's determined. So like I said, again, darkness and hard times, they reveal character. Everything else is just a facade. So when you see someone going through something bad and stuff like that, like, can they still put on that smile that you knew? Can they still make you laugh? Can they still, you know, be nice to you? Can they still this and that? Like, it might be to a lesser level because they're going through stuff, but is that who they are? So like, again, I've seen you go through good and bad times. And the one thing I can say about you, Riku, is that like, you're still the same authentic version of yourself. Like, it might be different, you know, a little bit this and that, like it might be a more sad, solemn version of it, but it's still like, hey, you're gonna laugh, you're still gonna call me. Like, again, it's always a great, when I get a random Riku call and it's like, hey, I just wanna talk and see how you doing. We ain't talked in a minute. Like, whether you're going through good or bad times, you do that. And so that means that's just genuine to your character. And I've seen you do it for other people. I've seen you do it for your family, you know, your other friends and stuff like that. So I know that's just who you are. And like, to me, that is you determining yourself. And that's what second day of Kwanzaa is about, Kujichagulia.
People around me help determine that. So of course I keep reaching out. Very picky about the energies that influence. You gotta be. And I think self-determination is a high requirement on taking constructive criticism, back to what you were saying earlier. Because if you're not strong in self, you can't hear people's critiques. It's gonna hurt you. It's supposed to fuel you. It's gonna hurt.
Very true.
It's gonna poke you like a sponge instead of sticking to you. You know what I'm saying? Supposed to stick and absorb. I'm supposed to just, damn, that was a backwards analogy. Supposed to absorb like a sponge instead of getting thrown in like a rock on the wall and falling off. Absorb like a sponge.
There you go.
When you wake up in the morning, when it gets warm again, before you touch your phone, before you go talk to people, any of that extra stuff, if you're able, if there's any grass outside of where you at, go outside, barefoot, walk on the grass for 4 or 5 minutes. Breathe, just chill, relax, breathe, 4 or 5 minutes. Just try it. 2 or 3 days, just try it. And watch how much more at peace you feel, how much more stable you feel throughout the day. When the first thing you do when you open your eyes is not look at that goddamn phone.
Well, Riku, I thank you for coming out today, man, to be able to talk about Kujichagulia. To the audience, man, I hope you learned something. I hope you look within, you know, determine yourself. Don't allow anyone else to determine you. You determine yourself. And then from there, find your community that, you know, that rocks with who you are. So as I'm gonna say always on these, that's a wrap.
Kujichagulia.